Everything has layers. Break it down. See how it works.
The next question is, if we don't want to rely on mysticism, what would count as non-mystical evidence for a shared human storehouse? We can start with our sensitivities to threat. Humans, including infants, are unusually fast at detecting certain kinds of stimuli: snakes, spiders, angry faces. Faster than they are at noticing neutral objects. This doesn't mean we have a single hardwired fear module dedicated to snakes and spiders, but it does suggest a kind of preparedness or an attentional bias that's widely shared across our species. It's a bias that culture can tune and reshape, but it doesn't start from zero. In other words, we seem to come into the world with overlapping habits of attention. Then there are the stories we tell. When researchers study folktales and myths, they find striking recurrences in story grammar. The hero's quest, the journey into danger, the ordeal, the return home. Transformed, different cultures, separated in time and geography, converge on similar plot bones and symbolic roles. It's as if there's a shared template space that humans find cognitively natural, and we keep rediscovering it when we spin stories. And then there's the unconscious influence on behavior. Priming experiments show that a word flashed too quickly to consciously notice can still bias later your choices and judgments. Implicit memory shows up in skills and habits. Things we can do without being able to explain how we do them. Conditioned responses operate outside awareness but still steer what we approach and what we avoid. Put together, these lines of evidence point toward a layered mind in which meaningful structure persists below awareness and can be activated by context. That is exactly what a shared storehouse would predict. Patterns that feel like they were already there, waiting, when we meet them in dreams, in myths, in art. None of this proves an etheric library floating above the planet. It does, however, support a picture in which humans carry overlapping biases, schemas, and image patterns that are constantly updated through culture. When you and I both recognize a certain type of story or feel a sudden resonance with a symbol we've never seen before, it may not be because we've hacked into a cosmic archive. It may be because our brains have been shaped by similar pressures, and our cultures keep remixing the same surprisingly small set of building blocks. To make this account more than a metaphor, we need a mechanism. That's where contemporary cognitive neuroscience steps in. One key ingredient is selective attention, and what's sometimes called global broadcasting. At any moment, multiple inputs are competing for amplification in the brain: sensory signals, internal thoughts, memories, emotions. Only some of them win and get promoted into conscious access, into the space where you can say, "I'm noticing this." The rest are not erased, they're processed off stage, leaving traces in perception, in memory, in subtle shifts of mood and behavior. Another ingredient is working memory and its capacity limits. The conscious workspace is narrow. You can only hold a few items in mind at once. Most incoming information is therefore shunted to preconscious buffers or handled by specialized subsystems outside awareness. This constant triage creates a layered architecture, a foreground of awareness, a midground of what could easily come to mind, and a background of material that usually stays in the dark unless something calls it up. And then there is sleep. During sleep, especially deep stages and REM, the brain reactivates recent traces. It replays, reorders, and edits. At the same time, it downscales synapses globally and consolidates what matters. Weak connections are trimmed back. Strong patterns are stabilized and woven into older networks of knowledge. So when we say we forget details, it's not just loss, it's active reorganization and compression. This is why dormant symbols, metaphors, or solutions can surface after rest. The brain has been working off the clock, integrating new input into old structures. Put differently, the brain saves energy by pushing low-priority content downward, reindexing it during sleep, and resurfacing it when new cues match old patterns. If you zoom out, this begins to look a lot like a living, continuously edited repertoire of patterns, held in individuals, synchronized through culture. But if the brain really works this way, how close is that to what we're now building in AI? And what does that mean for all these mystical names?